Oh, good morning. I approached this audience with some trepidation. How many of you have raised money for your company? So what do I have to tell you guys? You definitely have succeeded in doing it. Part of my motivation for doing this topic was I read a lot about companies getting funded and how they did it. The typical kind of story is like Reid Hoffman. He did 3 presentations. He got a term sheet from the very first one he did, and off he went with LinkedIn. But not every deal is a LinkedIn deal. And after funding 4 companies, or almost funding 4 companies, through 6 to 8 rounds, we'll talk about why it's kind of fuzzy on how many rounds there are. I had a completely different view about how money got raised, and I thought I'd just share those ideas. So as she mentioned, I did a firewall company, an electric motorcycle company, a waste heat recovery generator company in the green tech space, and now I'm doing infrastructure underneath Hadoop. Completely different markets, completely different kinds of technologies, and completely different way of appealing to the VC community. So let's just talk a little bit about what's going on there. It's tough. Raising money, as you all know, is really a tough job, and dealing with the VCs makes it doubly tough. And it all starts with the introduction. And whatever you do, you don't want to make a cold call on a VC. It doesn't work. You need an introduction. I did a lot of looking around to find out what kind of introductions work. And I found this document online that I absolutely agree with and have followed since I discovered it 10 years ago. The number 1 introduction you can get is from an entrepreneur who already made that VC money. He will absolutely take your meeting if you can get an introduction through someone like that. Second is an executive from a company already in their portfolio company. If you know somebody that has an investment from a VC, he can actually do a very powerful introduction. Existing investors in your company. So if you've raised an A round, your investors, today's investors, can help you find your B round lead. And people will definitely take your meeting from an introduction like that. The lead investor, if you haven't closed a deal, but he's making an offer, and he can help you put together the rest of the consortium to flesh out the round, that's a pretty good introduction. It's not as good as the others, but it's pretty good. If you have a really enthusiastic customer, a lot of the IT senior executives have good relationships with VCs. If you've got an enthusiastic early customer, that's a really good introduction to a VC. Not so good are lawyers, accountants, other consultants who know VCs. They all know the VCs, but the VC don't really respect that these guys know a good deal from a bad deal. You can get a meeting this way, but you're not coming in with strength with that kind of introduction. Any random person who happens to know the VC comes below that, and then cold call is below that. But the worst introduction at all you should never do is get another VC to introduce you who's not investing. All right, so you've got the meeting. Now you really have to be prepared, and you've all been through this. Are you a vitamin or a pain reliever? You got to be a pain reliever. You got to know how much money you're going to spend and how much you need to raise and how you're going to use it, what your go-to-market plan is, and really never forget how important the team is. The background of the team is really what the VC invests in. That's really most important. You all know this stuff. What you may not really realize is the math. A typical VC does 300 meetings a year, and he does, or she does 2 or 3 deals a year. What does that mean? That means you have to go through a lot of meetings to find a deal. For me, I did 40 to 60 meetings every single time before I got a term sheet. It was just relentless. And when I couldn't raise the round, it was only after 60 plus meetings that we finally gave up. And there were 2 times when I was not able to raise the round. The first time I got a bridge from the current VC, and then we went back at it 6 months later with a better story. And the other time I couldn't raise the round was with the waste heat recovery generator company. Green tech was dead in the valley. Nobody was investing, no matter how good a deal we had, because the LPs told those VCs, don't you dare do another green tech deal. So even though we really had a good story, including 3 OEM prospects, we ended up doing a runoff amongst the 3 OEMs and sold to one of our OEM prospects. Every time. I never had the Reid Hoffman experience. I did at least 40 meetings before I got a term sheet. So what does this mean? It means you have to find the right fit. VCs have these criteria about what they're after, and your deal may not fit. No matter how great your deal is, it's not what he's looking for. He's looking for a particular kind of team in a particular kind of industry with particular investment size. So you need $5 million. He's used to putting in 20. You know, $5 million deal's not worth his time. Or you're putting in, you need 20, and he doesn't have the money to do 20, and you have to put a big consortium together. There's just all kinds of reasons. He's doing 300 meetings. He's looking for a reason when you don't fit his shoe, and so you just got it. You know, you got to look for that shoe. What does that mean on feedback? Well, it means you ignore it because he's looking for an excuse not to take your deal, and you have a particular kind of deal. You're looking for the right fit over here. If you take the feedback from every VC you talk to, you're going to be changing your story all over the place because each one is going to send you in a different direction. You have to put together your real story and look for the guy who matches your real story. That's how you get a good board, is he believes in the story you actually have, and you have an investor that believes in your story. Keep going. You don't give up until you've done the 60 meetings, maybe even more. So don't worry about giving your secrets to the competitor. I've talked to a lot of young entrepreneurs who are desperately afraid that they're going to lose their story. It's hard to start a company. It's hard to raise money. Giving away your story is not going to get somebody else funded. You know, don't be stupid about it. Don't, you know, do your homework. Don't go pitch a VC who's invested in your main competitor, because he's just going to send all that information to your competitor. But this is not something to worry about. Don't worry about the terms of the deal. So many younger entrepreneurs are so worried about losing control. They're giving up big chunks of their company. Hey, if you don't get your company funded, you have nothing. You know, once you have 2 or 3 term sheets, then you can start negotiating. That comes at the end, not at the beginning. A lot of these meetings are really nasty. Especially the first round of funding I did really did not make sense. And the VCs were not shy at all about telling me how stupid I was. And you really get intimidated, you get down, you think it's never going to happen. This is selling. Focus on filling the pipeline. This is sales, like I said. The character of the VC partner. Not all the money is the same. There are certain VCs around the valley who I absolutely will not take money from, even if I have to shut the company down without them, because they're just such a pain in the ass. Life's too short. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Just these guys have to deal with so many meetings, they forget about you. Even if they really liked you, they forget about you. So that's really important. And then finally, even if it looks like you're getting a term sheet, don't stop filling the top of the pipeline, because that term sheet will go away, and you just got to keep plowing on. And then really, the other reason to hit through the ball is it is the multiple term sheets that gets you the best deal. I got a really good deal on the last round at DriveScale, and it was a VC from out of the valley who came in and snaked the deal away from all the Silicon Valley VCs, because he knew what their terms were going to be, and he wanted to get the deal away from them, and I got a really good deal. Some say life's a marathon, not a sprint. Man, this is tough work. I respect every one of you guys who raise money for your company. This is not an easy thing. I think most of the world doesn't realize how tough it is to raise money. Congratulations.